Hello, everybody. Good evening, Facebook world. It's December the 19th, 2018. I can't believe we're almost through with December. It's far out. Happy birthday to my mom. My beautiful mom is 71 years old today, and she is amazing. I'm so excited I get to follow in her footsteps, hopefully. She's an amazing lady. So this was a good day for her, and it's a good day for us. So happy you're here on 12 days of Gen Hacks, and we're on the absolute downhill slide, almost to the end here. We'll have another 15-minute or so segment tomorrow night and Friday night and Saturday night, and we will wrap up. So happy that you've been a part of this. I've had lots of sweet comments and feedback, and you all have just totally blessed me. This has been an amazing Christmas present. So without further ado, I'm going to hop on this little subject. And as I promised from the beginning, I said I would touch on home stuff and health stuff and sayings that Lorenzo and I go by, or things that we consider to be important in how we've built our family, things that we've learned from all the mistakes that we've made, and things we've learned from some of the things that we think have turned out okay. Probably need to record a recording when we're 100 years old instead of when we're 40 something. I don't know. We can only go by how far we've gone so far. So all that to say, I'm really humbled and grateful and just thankful to have a quick moment here and be in the middle of an opportunity to share something. And we know that every family is different. We know every couple is different. We know every mom is out there, and dad is out there, wife, husband, that do things completely differently. We just want to throw something out that might help somebody. So here's what we're going to touch on tonight. It's going to be a saying that we've talked about and worked on for about 23 years. And this is actually kind of a toughie, and I hope that it'll translate for you and be something that will help. And that is the saying that we have referred to several times, and the subject I'm going to touch on is kill your monsters so your kids don't have to. And let me repeat that one more time. Kill your monsters so your kids don't have to. Well, what does that mean? Basically, it means this is what parenting has been all about all this time. And it is similar to something that I touched on, I believe, back on the first day, second day, where we wonder where things come from when we see them in our children, their behaviors and their personalities, and the things they do great, as well as the things that we just, frankly, go to bed at night and go, what? Where did that come from? You know, and we go in the mirror that night before we go to bed, brush our teeth, and we look in the mirror and we realize it's us. You know, it's maybe things we've fought through, it's things we've had trouble with, it's things we're good at or strong in, and those things tend to show up in our children. And that obviously makes sense genetically. You know, we get that in our brains, but as far as their way, their processing, some of the things they might repeat that we had trouble with, we don't want them to repeat, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I say it's kind of a tough subject. Something as small as, let's say, pickiness. You've heard me talk about that and how picky of an eater I was as a child. Something that really impacted me in that area was with Hannah, our oldest. She's almost 23. And when she was about 5 or 6, we really had to start working on that with her. And she convicted me to the core one day when I was giving them their lunch. And this would have been the first 3 were here. So that was Hannah, Nate, and Micah. And I had a certain budget, and I was a stay-at-home mom. My husband's a pastor, and so I'm really trying to watch exactly what we're eating, and I'm trying to make it healthy. But I still have a certain amount to spend, and so if you're trying to hit fruits and vegetables, that means something like bananas are a really good investment. They're not that expensive, and so I had a banana on their plate for lunch, and Hannah, to this day, if she was on here, she'd probably say so. I don't think she still is a big fan of bananas. And Nathaniel, he cannot stand avocados. Now, the truth is that they'll eat them, but they're not their favorite, as I would try to teach them to say. Not hate or I won't eat this, but it's not my favorite. Well, what happened that day that really colored the rest of what I did with all the rest of the kids from there on out is that day she had a banana on her plate and she said, I don't want to eat my banana. And I said, still remember this to this day. I said, well, Hannah, that's what we're having for lunch and you need to tell your mouth that it likes it. Which I don't think that's a bad thing to say, but after I said that, she looked at me and said, so Mom, are you going to eat a banana? That's why I say she convicted me to the core, because I wasn't eating a banana. And if my mom, happy birthday, Mom, if Mom was on here tonight, she would affirm, no, I wouldn't have eaten the banana because I couldn't stand them. And I went to bed that night and I cried over that because I was asking her to do something I wasn't willing to do. And that, my friends, mamas, daddies, everybody out there, that is the core of parenting. That is the core of why our children are a blessing, because they push on that. They make us have to think. Any parent worth their salt, I know some parents out there, maybe they don't think about it. Maybe they don't consider it. Maybe they're so much in a struggle with what they're facing themselves that it's escaping them. And that is another issue and something that I know that anybody can walk out of. They're working on it. Everybody's working on this, guys. Everybody needs grace. Everybody needs mercy. But I know any parent out there who really, really wants to do a good job, they go to bed at night and go, oh man, that was not good. I'm toast. I can't do that. And that next day I went to her and said, honey, you were right about the banana, and I'm really sorry. Guys, she wasn't more than 5 or 6 years old. She couldn't have been 6 years old by then. And I said, I'm sorry, Mom was wrong. That is terrible, and I'm so sorry. And she had eaten her banana, by the way, and that's why to this day she can eat a banana. Nathaniel eat an avocado. Don't tease him about it, or I'll never hear the end of it because you truly cannot stand them. But I wanted to do something for them that obviously by that point I still hadn't learned, and I would have been about 24 at that time by the time I had the first 3. So that started a process in me that I forced myself. Whatever I gave them, I ate it. I had to. I couldn't be a hypocrite about it. It doesn't mean that it was great and fun and easy, but I can eat a banana right now. And again, Mom can tell you this is all true. If she was here, she could say this child wouldn't eat anything but meat and sweet stuff and bread and Dr. Pepper. Not kidding. So that has all changed because of my kids. They forced me to have to realize I couldn't say that and not do it. So I now can eat a banana. It's not my favorite. I now can eat strawberries, as you've heard the story if you've been here before, that I wanted my mom to cut seeds out of strawberries. I mean, it doesn't really get worse than that. Of course, now I can eat strawberries. My most difficult thing that I still just absolutely do not like is oatmeal. I can eat it though. I can eat it. It's not my favorite, but I can eat it. My point in that is we all have these monsters, okay? Nobody's exempt from them. I have them. I'm sitting here on this live video and you're watching, but I have monsters. My husband has monsters. You have monsters. What I mean by monsters is something that we need to get rid of. Something that's not the greatest thing for our life, that kind of sit in the closet that we try to ignore. And the neat thing about how God designed our children. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're a parent per se. It could mean you have something in your life that does push on that button too, whatever that may be. But it or your children, whatever it is, they have the ability to look into your eyes and go, hey, you know what? You're not towing the line here, Mom. You're not doing what you're saying. You're not practicing what you preach. And as convicting as that is, and as tough as that is, and in this case with the banana, that changed me forever. I am a different person from that moment because I wanted to follow through with what I was instinctively asking her to do as a parent that I knew would be better for her. So instinctively, that took over in how I wanted to train her. Now that followed with all the rest of the kids, and so we just continued to teach them and guide them and train them to, you know what's on your plate. You've heard me say that this week. Probably you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So that kind of evolved into, you know what, we have food. We're grateful. Let's eat it. And that stemmed from my terrible hypocrisy and my conviction. Now, something that's really, really important is you can't stay in the hypocrisy, but you also can't stay in the conviction or worse, the shame, because I could have been shameful about that for a really long time and just kind of acted like a martyr about it and, whining and, I didn't want to do that either. And if we translate this idea, kill your monsters so your children don't have to, into something bigger, something tougher, something uglier, a bigger, worse monster, a worse kind of monster, we can't stay in shame over that either. But we can, with everything we've got, with as much diligence as we've got, with God's help, we can start to kill those monsters. We can say, you know what? This thing was a part of my life, something, even if it's big and bad and terrible, like addiction or going through divorce or going through some kind of abuse issue, whatever it is, something that was done to you or something that you were part of that hurt somebody else, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. God has big enough grace for that. He has big enough mercy for that. And you, as a mom or dad, and if you're not the mom and dad, but you're just playing this role with whatever situation you're in, you, because of that grace and mercy, can turn around and say, you know what? I didn't toe the line here, and I have owned that, and God has graced me and given me mercy. And so because of that, I am going to stand for you. I'm going to fight for you to not have to fight that kind of monster. So you'll have a better example to follow. And so the momentum of your life can change. My husband has an amazing story in several areas when it comes to killing your monsters so your kids don't have to. He's basically started a whole new way of life from several things that he went through as a child. Does that mean that he has to live in those tough things, either one of us, those tough things that were in our closet? No, it means we get to start something new, and it's so powerful. And the neatest thing about your kids is when you say, you know what, Hannah, I was wrong, and this doesn't fit. This isn't what I want to pass on to you. They're gracious too. That's what's so wonderful about what happens with your kids. The grace that God has for us is in our children, because they're, as Lorenzo and I like to say, they're the closest to heaven than comparatively to an adult, as in they were sent from heaven, and so it's like their time away is shorter. That's probably a good way to say it. They haven't been here that long. They haven't been infiltrated with the dirge of earth time, so to speak. They're not as jaded and they're not as tending towards the negative. And they can look at you and they can genuinely say, you know what, that's okay. It's okay, Mom. And those are the people, those little people are the ones that when it's time to go to bed that night and you've read them a story and you're tucking them in, they're the ones that look at you and go, Mommy, I love you. And Mommy, it's okay. And they don't even probably remember by that night, whatever it was. And if something is tougher and if something is bigger and it takes more time, some kind of monster that you're praying and you're just believing your guts out, like we talked about with Cinderella Man and the boxing for milk, when he said, I'm just boxing for milk because my kids are never going to go without milk at night ever again. That tenacity as a parent, you can't give up. You can't give up, because something I want to wrap up with is a beautiful scripture, and I can't remember the exact spot. It's in Joel in the Old Testament, but it says that God can restore the years the cankerworm has eaten. And what that basically means is, hey, if you have a bunch of monsters here and you want to kill them so your kids don't have to, you know what? God can do that. He can restore those years that you may have had those monsters going on, whatever they were. And he can start something new. He can start a new thing with you and your family and your children. You can't give up. He can do that through you. It doesn't have to be your own power. It doesn't have to be your own strength. But as you're trusting that and you're just refusing to give up, you're standing. When you've done all, as it says in Ephesians, when you've done all, stand. That can happen. It can happen over time, and it does take time. And keep in mind, killing your monsters so your kids won't have to doesn't mean they won't have their own monsters. And I can say that in the span of having little ones all the way to an almost 23-year-old. They'll still have their own monsters. You're not going to save them from that. They're still going to be there because they're human and they're in a human world. But because you're willing to fight yours, because you're willing to kill yours off, even if it takes bite by bite and day by day, they can do the same thing. Doesn't mean they won't have them, but they may have an easier time with some of the ones you faced, and then they'll have a good example for the ones they will face. So, good stuff. I really, really love that saying, and it's hopeful for me. It's exciting for me because I know there's not a person out there. There's nobody in a live video tonight that has their lip gloss on, because I put my lip gloss on tonight, just now, after all day long. It doesn't matter. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, everybody has monsters. Everybody needs to kill them off. So don't give up. Wife and husband and mom and dad and parent and brother and sister and friend, whoever you are, wherever you are, don't give up. You, with God's help, can kill those monsters off. You can pave the way for your children. And then when they face their own, they're going to have your good example. I hope that that was something, even though it was kind of a tough subject, something that could help wherever you might be. Today was day 9 of 12 days of Gen Hacks, and I hope you've really enjoyed it. I've had a great time doing this, and I know that Gen Hacks will keep coming up. I have 3 more nights, and I pretty much have them planned, and they could change at the last minute, but we're going to touch some health stuff and some home stuff, and then some Christmas stuff to wrap it up. Okay, so if you would have questions or comments or suggestions of things you'd want me to touch, I can always touch on them in Mama Mondays. That's coming up the Monday after Christmas Eve. Just shoot me a message. I'll do my best to answer, and I love hearing feedback. So I am over a little bit, by a little bit, 15 minutes, but I hope you've enjoyed tonight's Gen Hack. And I can't wait to see you for the next one. I hope you'll be here, same time, same place, Facebook Live, 9:30 p.m. And I hope you'll share if you really enjoyed it. So thanks, everybody. Love and hugs. See you same time, same place tomorrow night. Bye-bye.